Welcome to Thomistic Womanhood. In today's video, I'm going to talk about a scoring system I'm using for online dating. Welcome to today's video. Happy Thomistic Tuesday, or whenever you're watching this. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the scoring system I'm using as I'm online dating. I tend to be very much an empath, and I tend to I think, be too nice to men sometimes. And so I feel like this is helping me put a little hard data into a process that can often be very fuzzy and emotionally based. I don't know about you, but like sometimes if you're dating a guy, do you ever wonder, like, do I really like him, or am I just with him because he likes me? And then you get all existential and you're like, do I even know what I want? What is love anyways, So this system, I think, has been helping at least me with that. So I am going to talk about that today. It is not my idea, as much as I would love to claim credit for this. This was not my idea. This was actually a woman named Amy Webb came up with it. And I don't know if maybe she read it somewhere else, but it sounds like she figured it out. And she made a TED Talk called How I Hacked Online Dating, and where she discusses it in detail. So I watched the video. I thought, wow, what a great idea. I'm going to do that too. And so that's what I did. So here is the system I'm using, and it tends to be, I designed it around online dating because that's what I'm doing, and that was what Amy Webb was doing, but it can work for real, like in real life as well. So here it is. So the first step of this, it seems almost kind of Hunger Gamesy, like, whew, I hope the odds is in some guy's favor. So anyways, the first step, you are going to take a notebook. I have just like a binder or whatever. And you're going to write down everything you could possibly want in a guy, from the important stuff, has a job, isn't on drugs, to the more like shallow stuff, like, oh, he's a good dresser, or, oh, he doesn't have brown hair. You know how there's like those weird quirky things that, like, they're kind of stupid, but they're preferences, and you just like, yeah. So write that down, write everything you could possibly want down. I seriously have like 2 pages, but they're like both sides. So you're going to write down everything you want, everything you could possibly want in a guy, the big important things as well as the stupid little things. This is not the time to don't be picky, just write everything down. So then the second part for step number 2, divide it, look at your list that you have, and really take some time making the list, I think I took maybe about an evening and then the next day. So I took some time with it. But after you have your list, you're going to divide it into the important and the nice to have. So kind of make, I think Amy called it a secondary, was it a primary tier? I think it's like primary, yeah, top tier and secondary tier. So you're going to go through your list and you're going to write out a second list of everything that is, a pretty serious, big, important thing, and then on the other list, you're going to put everything that's, maybe it's lesser, and this is going to be according to you. Maybe, obviously there are certain important things that I think apply across the board, like I said earlier, he should have a job, he shouldn't be on drugs, doesn't beat you, doesn't have a yelling problem or an alcohol problem, those things are major important things. But put things that are important to you, I'm Catholic. It's really important to me that I get someone that takes his faith seriously. So I'm going to put stuff like, goes to mass at least once a week or whatever, because those are things that are important to me. So just fill everything out, take your whole list and just split it into 2 lists, the really important stuff, and then, kind of the nice to haves. So that is step 2. For step 3, and this is the fun one, you're going to assign a point value to everything on your 2 lists, So the top tier, obviously, and this is why you're supposed to like split them up, because this kind of helps you go through the point value assignment easier. So in the top tier, you're going to give everything a point value. I think Amy like assigned important stuff 100 points, and then you could see some things I think had like 50 points, or maybe she did like 10. I think I did more than hers, but whatever it seems like to you. So I think the way I did mine, I assigned it in like increments of, I did increments of like 100. So yeah, I think Amy Webb did like 10 or 50. On mine, I don't know. This is just how I felt like it. I was like, oh, this thing is worth 300 points to me, and this other thing is worth 100 points, and this other thing is, that's 250, you know? So my points were in the hundreds. You know, the biggest, I would say probably an easiest thing to start is pick the thing on your top tier list that is the most important to you and assign it whatever you think an appropriate point value is, because the points are going to be relative. You'll see later how we calculate it. So it doesn't matter if your biggest thing is 50 points and you're going within, you know, under 50 points, or maybe you're like, my biggest thing is 1,000 points, and you know, whatever. So pick the thing that's the most important, give it a point value. I think for me, the most important thing on my top tier was 300 points. And then from there, it was like, well, you know, what are things that are less important than that? Oh, that one's 100 points. This other one's 200. So that's how I did that. Then on your secondary tier, do the same thing. You know, if it's a nice to have, you know, I did like, oh, this thing, 50 points. Another thing, like I put on here, can dress well. You know, like I want a guy that can dress well, okay? Like, so I gave that 50 points. Another one, I put, this is another funny one, I put good teeth. Like, I don't want some guy that has like, I don't know, like root canal, neglected teeth. Like, if you have a root canal, that's fine. You know, like that means you're taking care of your teeth. But I mean, if you're like missing teeth and I don't know, whatever. But you know, that's not as important. I gave that 30 points, so whatever. So that is that step. So you give everything a point value. Then the next thing, and this is where we start calculating. The next thing is you add up the total of everything on this list, look at the point value you gave it, and then add up the whole thing complete. So if some dream guy potentially had every single thing on your list, we all know that's not going to happen, but let's say, you know, like what is the complete total point value? For me, I think when I added it up, my total points, yeah, I ended up with 7,470 points because I had a lot of things. I think Amy Webb said she had 72 data points in her video. I had 78, so whatever. 78 things I wanted in a guy. And so yeah, adding up all the points, you're going to get a total number, and that number is going to be your 100%. So then the second part is where we're going to start calculating the levels. And this is where I'm going to show you my scorecard here. I'm going to fold this part down a little bit. Haha, I got to have some privacy. Okay, so as you can see here, this is my levels. And again, this is being designed around online dating. You can kind of rejigger these levels a little bit if you're going to do this like in real life. But so my scorecard, now the way I'm doing this is nobody's going to get 100%. So if you're wondering, you're like, oh, 100% is I marry them, right? And it's like, no, I went with 80%. Marriage is like the top tier thing, like the top level on my scorecard. And I was like, okay, nobody's going to have 100%. So let's say if he has 80% of what I'm looking for, then I'll marry him. Okay? I know, right? Like so business-like. But yeah, so 80%, that'll be marriage. And then we'll kind of work backwards from there. So I figured marriage would be 80%. And then we'll start at the bottom. 25%, if he has 25% of what I'm looking for, I'll either email him or I'll answer his email. If he emails me, you know, if you're on an online dating site and you get a message or you see a profile and you're thinking, oh, should I write him? If he's got 25% of what I'm looking for, I'll, you know, start an email. I'll start talking to him on email. 30%, I'll move to like a Zoom call, phone call kind of thing. 40%, I'll let him come visit. You know, if he's got 40% of what I'm looking, I mean, he's halfway there to marriage. You know, marriage is 80%, so hey. And then if he's got 50% of what I'm looking for, then I'll get into a serious relationship with him. And then obviously 80% is marriage, you know. So that's kind of how I'm doing that. So as you can see, I did the percentage calculations first, and You can either stick with the breakdown I did, or you can make up your own if it feels more comfortable. You know, maybe for you, you're like, I'm pretty friendly. I don't mind emailing somebody, if they got 10% of what I want, whatever. Maybe for you, a visit is a pretty big deal. And, you're like, I'm not going to let someone visit me until they have like 60% of what I'm looking for, whatever. But I think this is a pretty good balanced percentage breakdown, because you want to keep yourself open to the options, but at the same time, like, don't waste each other's time. So that's how I did it with the percentage breakdown. And then once I had my percentage breakdown, then I did the math on the points. So again, my 100% was 7470. And then I just kind of, did the math. Like, what's 80% of that? Oh, 80% is 5,976 points. What's 40% of that, and then and so then that's how you build the kind of like your scorecard. And then that's it. As you're talking to guys, you just score them. And if you notice that, like, let's say you finish a date with a guy, then pull out your list and be like, okay, like, does he have, did I hear new things? Oh yeah, he's got this thing that I like. And how many points is that worth? Oh, 50 points. He got 50 points. And then, or maybe you hear something like, I have something, okay, so I want a guy that likes his job, because like, I'm more traditional. I want to be like kind of the stay-at-home traditional woman. And if you're going to be relying on your husband, I'm not opposed to doing some kind of like home-based business kind of thing, But if you're going to be financially relying on your husband, you want somebody who likes their job. I feel like that kind of makes things a little more stable. So I've got likes his job, 50 points. So if I were to go on a date with a guy, or I see it in his profile or something that, he says he likes his job, great. I'm going to give him 50 points. Now, let's say I go on a date and I either find out he was lying about that on his profile and he actually hates his job, or he didn't mention it on his profile, but you just happen to hear in conversation and from talking to him like, oh wow, he really hates his job. Well, then you're going to go negative 50 points. He's going to lose 50 points. And so as you're getting to know this guy, or men, you'll probably be talking to more than one, these men are going to rank up and down based on whether they do or don't have the qualities you're looking for. Now, some of the qualities on your list are going to be things you can't really figure out unless you've really known a guy. That's why I tried to set these levels low enough to where, you can still kind of move forward with stuff. Because, for example, like on my top tier, let's look at some of the more important stuff. Top tier things, where is my top tier? Well, I don't know where it went. Oh, okay. So here's one, loyal, won't cheat. That's a pretty important one. And so that's not necessarily something you're going to know like on the third date, So certain things are going to take time. But that's basically how it works. And bonus, one of the nice side effects of this that I didn't expect, but when I did it, is as I was writing out everything I wanted in a guy, and then I was splitting it over to, what was important and what was like not as important. On the important stuff, it did like a picture emerged, I kind of was like, oh, yeah, like that, some of these qualities kind of seemed like, I think those would cluster in the same kind of personality. And then that kind of helps you realize, oh, well, this is the kind of man I want, and then what is the kind of woman he would want, and you can kind of reverse engineer it a little bit and be like, oh, well, what kind of woman, if I want a guy that has these 10 important characteristics, well, that gives me an idea of what kind of man he is, and then now I can figure out, like, what kind of woman would he want, and, and it's kind of guessing, like, you're not going to be able, you've never even met this person, so how can you read their mind and figure out what they want, whatever, but you can make a pretty good educated guess about what they're probably looking for. And then once you write that down, and that's what I did end up doing, I said, what would my dream guy want? And then I listed out, like, for example, I want a guy that's good with money, maybe an entrepreneur, that would be cool. And so then, well, if you want a guy that's good with money, therefore, he appreciates a woman who's financially familiar, at least with money, and she's responsible with her money, And so those kind of things can help you figure out whether you're the kind of woman that the guy you're looking for wants. And then from there, you can kind of think like, well, maybe I need to improve in this or that area, or whatever. So that is my scoring system. I'm not married yet, so we'll see how well it works. I tend to be, like I mentioned earlier, I tend to be pretty like emotional and forgiving, and so I feel like this is going to actually help me a little bit. Maybe you're the kind of person who's very like rigid and kind of firm already, and like maybe this would be too much for you. Maybe you're like, I'm already like this too much, that's overkill. But I don't know, for all you empaths out there, I feel like this is going to be like narcissist repellent a little bit, I think. So anyways, that is the system. I hope this was at least helpful or entertaining to hear about. If you have any questions, let me know. Like, share, subscribe, whatever. Do all the things.